and we're back with another video on Fun Gamer. Today I'll be talking about the best possible Call of Duty Warzone settings. We will walk you through the best controller settings which are most important for a player to secure those victories. Also we will talk about our graphics and audio setting that of course depends on your PC and hardware. Hope you liked this video and get something out of it, and let's get started. Starting off by controller settings. First of all, button layout preset. Of course I use the tactical just because slide cancelling, it's much faster, but if you think about it, melee is not used that much by other players, so it's very good to use tactical. Stick layout preset, put it default. Invert vertical look, it's always disabled for me, I never use it. Dead zone 0.10 is what I use. This setting is basically talks about how fast you want the controller to be reacted by the game. I always put 0.10 just because if you put it 0.9, your character will be moving by himself without even touching the controller. But if you make it higher than 10, it will be much harder to control the player. Horizontal stick sensitivity and vertical stick sensitivity, I always use 5, and that's what most bros use in the game, just because 4 and 6, they're both great for certain types of engagement, but 5 is in the center of all of that, so that's why I like using it. Now, ADS sensitivity multiplayer low zoom, okay? I always use 0.85 just because those horizontal vertical sensitivity thing, it makes them like it's 4 and much lower, because in longer engagements it will be, I always put, and you can hit those headshots. ADS sensitivity multiplier high zoom, I always put it at 1. Aim response careful type, always put it dynamic. Controller vibration, always disable it, never enable it, it's so bad, you can't. Controller vibration, it's bad, I always disable it, always disable it, please, just because it doesn't help and it makes it worse, and I really don't like using it, and nobody should use it. Aim assist standard, it's better than fuck. Aim assist, it's always standard for me. Scale aim assist with FOV, I always enable it just because it makes the aim assist much bigger. Weapon mount activation, ADS plus melee. Weapon mount movement exit, disable. Aim down sight behavior, hold it, always hold. Equipment behavior, also always hold, never make it toggle, be just so much slower. Use / reload behavior contextual tap, always use this. If you're not, then you're kind of crazy and I don't know what you're playing, I don't know how you live with this game. Keep it contextual tap. Now, depleted ammo weapon switch, I always use enable. Depleted ammo weapon switch, it's always enabled. Slide behavior, I always use tap, much faster when you cancel. And slide in general, I always keep it default. And parachute or deploy, keep it disabled just because it's much worse. Okay, you have to be closer to ground when you have to parachute, so keep it disabled. And that's the controller setting. Now for the audio setting. Audio mix, if you're using a headset, use dynamic home theater, but if you're using a TV, please use home theater. They are both great in certain way. Master volume 100, music volume keep it 0 always, it doesn't help, it makes gameplay much worse, you can't hear footsteps, keep it 0 please. Dialogue volume keep it at 60. Okay, callouts in this game are pretty useful when somebody is landing or somebody is getting close to you. Callouts are useful in this example. Effects volume, it's the most important sound effect, then use it 100. It's very good. Juggernaut music, disable. Hit marker sound effect, use MW Modern Warfare just because it's much better and you can hear if the opponent is low or high with damage. Voice chat is a personal preference, you can use whatever you want, you can enable it, disable it, but if you want to enable it, please open mic recording threshold, keep it at 0, because you can't talk even if it's 1. Keep it at 0 please people. If not, then the voice chat will be useless, you can't use it for some weird reason, so buggy. Now for graphics, first of all we have display mode, I always use full screen when playing, it's much better. Screen refresh rate 144 Hz, of course it's because of my monitor, it runs at 144 Hz too. It's 120, then put it 120, it's much better. Render resolution 1120x by 1080, and this keep it 100 always. It's just because of the blur, you need it to be as low as you can. Now for the advanced tab, display resolution as high as you can, keep it as high as you can, as much as you can. Aspect ratio, keep it automatic. Frame VSync, I always enable it. Custom frame rate limit, I always use custom. For the advanced layout, first of all, this is the part where you have to take care of your RAM usage. You don't need it to be a lot or low at all. Out of focus, custom frame rate, keep it 30, okay? because it's not that important. Menu custom frame rate limit 60, goes for the menu and other stuff. Gameplay custom frame rate limit 144. It's much better. Always my frames are pretty good. It's like 140 to 130. It's very nice FPS for my opinion. Nvidia highlights, I always keep it enabled. Nvidia reflex low latency enabled too. Play gamma 2.2 RGB. Don't use the 2.4. It will make your gameplay much worse. Now here, first of all, texture resolution make it normal. Streaming quality, if you're recording, okay, and love streaming, of course, make it normal. But if not, make it low. Texture filtering anisotropic, make it normal. Particle quality, make it high, of course. Bullet impact and braze. Somebody's shooting and you don't know from which way he is shooting. You can look at the walls sometimes and decide from there. Oscillation table is not that important. On demand texture streaming, as always, if you're streaming or recording, enable. If not, disable. Now download limit GPU 1 default. Cache size GP 29 default 2. Now shadow map resolution, I always keep it normal. Cache spot shadow, I use enabled. Cache some shadows too, it's always enabled. What makes this really important, that if somebody is gliding or above you, you can see from the shadow. So it's very good. Particle lighting, okay, always use it as normal. DirectX ray tracing enabled, always. Ambient, I always use both. Screen space reflection SSR for high, always high. Depth of field disabled, of course. You don't need any blur, never ever. Helmet strength 1. World motion blur, I always disable it. With the weapon motion blur too, disable. Film grain 0, keep it always 0. Dynamic resolution disabled. Dynamic resolution frame rate target also 60. Now for general field of view, it's one of the most talked about settings out of all the other settings in this game. First of all, field of view, this setting is only for PC players. If you're in console like PS5, Xbox Series X, or PS4 or normal Xbox, there is no field of view for some reason. Hopefully they add them for next gen, PS5, Xbox Series X. Now, if you have PC, 107 is perfect for controller players. It's just because 108 makes the aim assist disappear. So 107 is very good. Advanced, I always use independent because the zoom will be zoomed out and I don't like that. I use optics just to zoom in, not to zoom in further. So I always keep it independent. Brightness 50. Horizontal heads up display 100. Vertical heads up display also 100. Minimap shape, okay, always use it as square because it will give you much more space. Minimap rotation enabled always. And one last thing, and it's an additional one, if you don't want it, it's okay. Frames per second counter, it's in the corner. I always enable it just because I really want to know how my game runs. That's all we got for you all of you today. Which settings do you use in Call of Duty Warzone? Please drop them down in the comments below. If you like this video, then click like, and if you're new and you didn't subscribe, then this is the right time to do so. We upload videos every single day. If you want to be the first to see them, don't forget to hit the bell. And as always, thank you for watching. I'm Shihab, and see you in the next one on Fun Gamers. Goodbye.